Hear your silent and unheard views in this hugely green community in the United Kingdom. Our channel, Ben TV, presents to you another live current affairs television program. Our focus on the program is to review and discuss issues around the diaspora community in the UK. The program offers you that unrestricted voice on issues affecting you in the UK. Join us live every Monday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program today. The program is News Dialogue in Diaspora, coming to you live from Ben Television. We will not be bringing you the news roundup at this time. Probably towards the end of the program, we might bring you our news roundup, which is a compilation of major stories in the weekend, but not at the moment because we do have a very busy day here today, and we're starting with Nigeria, and we'll be finishing the program with Congo and Kenya and Africa generally. On the program today, we'll be taking a look at the issue of social economic development in Africa. We're starting with Nigeria, and I'm joined now by three gentlemen who are very passionate about social, political, and economic development of Nigeria. And close, very, very close to their heart is the issue of the restructuring agenda that has been making the waves in recent time. And I'm now joined by my immediate right, Dayo Israel of the Glade Foundation. Dayo, pleasure having you here on the program here today. You're welcome. And I'm having here William Izedomi Ohiren. Mr. Ohiren, it's a pleasure having you on the program here today. And we're joined by Abimbola Kumapai. So Kumapai, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome, sir.
And we'll be looking at social, economic, and political development for Nigeria. More importantly, we're talking about what has been making waves in recent time. That is the issue of the restructuring agenda in Nigeria. And after the session, we'll be going straight to Africa. I'll be joined by Pan-Africanist, two ladies. I've got three men in the studio, and after the session, I'll be joined by two ladies. And they'll be talking about political and economic way forward for Africa with reference to Congo and Kenya. Where are we in Africa? Good morning. You're welcome to the program. My name is Tony Alabi again. Now, let me start with my guest. Yeah, let me start with Mr. Kumapai. First, let's look at Nigeria as it is. Currently, what are your views about the social, political, and economic development of Nigeria? What are your views? Are we on the right track?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Alabi. From my own perspective, I think Nigeria, we are a nation of kindred idea. And we have a very viable economy in place, only that we lost priorities to so many things. That is, say, for example, the physical appropriation and the allocation of resources and all that. They have been the issue. Not that we don't have the money. We have a very viable and a good economy in place. Even without oil or without no oil, we can still survive as a nation. We've seen examples of nations that survive without oil. So, if we say oil is the issue, we are only deceiving ourselves. Economy is there. Let us get it ongoing, and we'll be okay. Because for the past 2 years or 3 years, the government has been there managing with what the little we have, and we've been okay. So economy of Nigeria is still okay, and we can do more to better it. Thank you.
But as it stands at the moment, do you think the government of the day is doing enough to build on? People have said Nigeria's economy prior to 2015, to this administration was relatively okay. Nigeria's economy was #1 in Africa. Now it slipped down. Cost of living wasn't as high as now. What would be your thought on that?
Yeah, to be really honest, the way we assess the state of economy is per the capita, GDP. Yeah. The standard of living, the purchasing power parity, that is the unit of goods, that chase, the value of the currency. So, if this place, for example, to be really honest, in 2014 to 2015, the situation there was quite different from what we have today. Because in say for example, the exchange rate, all of a sudden, the exchange rate just took off without any control. And whereas in the previous administration, they've been able to keep it below, some certain level. Everybody can bear me out. So now if you want to change money from Nigeria, it's impossible to do basic things with your money out here. So life has become extremely difficult, but I will not hold the government in power, responsible for it, but they should do more, to make life more bearable to, for people.
Mr. Ohienre, let's start from where he stopped.
Yeah.
Not blaming the government of the day, but doing more. Yeah. Will people in Nigeria want to listen to that? When they compare their purchasing power, their standard of living, prior to what this administration, what it was before this government, does that sound well to the people? Let's start from there.
Honestly, I think the government of today inherited a lot of problems. Like the price of oil tumbled from high up to $140 per barrel to about $28 per barrel. The government is not to blame for that. Then we had crisis in the Niger Delta after the election. Niger Delta Avengers that reduced our oil export by 60%. The government is not to blame for that. We also had these Biafra agitators, people who campaigned for Jonathan in 2015. Now all of a sudden they want to break up Nigeria. The government is not to blame for that. You cannot do anything without money. The government has no money. At a point when Yar'Adua was there, our foreign reserve rose up to $65 billion. But at the time Jonathan left office, it has been run down to $27, $28 billion. This government is not to blame for that. So we had so much under Jonathan administration, and we have nothing to show for it. It's only when you have money that you can implement programs. It's only when you have foreign reserve that your value of your currency will appreciate. Not when it's run down importing toothpick and rice by the previous government, while they are demanding 150% collateral security for investors to develop agriculture and manufacturing.
There, give me permit 1 minute. Let me go to Mr. Kumakbai. So here has actually punched a lot of blames on the previous administration, the crisis it created, saying the government is not to blame for the Niger Delta crisis, and government not to blame for the Biafra, the IPOB, the indigenous people of Biafran crisis, agitation, and a whole lot of other crises that have actually impacted on the economy. How, in terms of managing social and political issues in Nigeria, comparatively between the last administration and this administration, for which he has said we cannot blame this administration, would you say we cannot really?
We can blame the administration.
Not blame the administration.
We can blame, the word blame I put across, we can blame the administration.
Tell us how.
Right. Well, we learn from history. President Buhari, with all due respect, came to power. Obasanjo was there. Yar'Adua was there. Jonathan was there. How did these people manage to suppress or to manage the socio-political, uprising during their period? We must learn from how people do things so that we can do better, or we don't make mistakes. If government has already, if government is able to call these people around the table and talk to them, they can achieve similar success they achieved in previous administration. So dialogue, nobody, the people agitating, they have reason why they're agitating. Call them around the table, talk to them. my fellow people, what is going on? Let us, amicably just, discuss our issues over here rather than taking up in arms against each other.
I think there are fundamental issues that we're
I'm sorry.
No, even from what they're saying, there are fundamental issues that both speakers are forgetting. First is the issue of Nigeria from independence to where we are today. And the Yoruba will say, amukun erewo onipe okelonwo o wosale. In other words, what you're carrying on your head is bent. And it's saying you're looking at the top, you're not looking below. Now, there are fundamental issues that we're forgetting. We're blaming Buhari or blaming Jonathan. The reality is that both of you have an element of right and wrong. So, when Jonathan was there, he was also blamed for everything that happened before his administration. Till today, many people still blame Jonathan for even things that went wrong in Obasanjo and Yar'Adua's regime. So, that's one. Number two, at the same time,
even the evils of the Jonathan and the evils of Obasanjo,
it was still put on Jonathan. You understand? So the same way, that's why you would see people also put the blames of what has happened on President Muhammadu Buhari. But the reality is that this thing did not start today. So it all comes also, all the various agitation you see. And there's no government that would ever be. When Obasanjo was there, he also had his own challenges. When Yar'Adua was there, he had the Niger Delta. When Jonathan was there, he had the Niger Delta.
The view of Mr. Kumapai is the management of this crisis. Yeah. Mr. Kumapai, was of the opinion that both Obasanjo had management strategy.
Yes.
That was able to curtail the uprising in a way that did not affect. In fact,
Obasanjo came out the other day. Jonathan did not, reportedly did not manage the Boko Haram crisis very well. But that's what we see. If we're talking about this, what is the agitation? If you from Yar'Adua to Obasanjo to Jonathan, there has been one agitation or the other. The Ijaw people wanted to secede at the time. That was why we had the whole bombing of all these things in Obasanjo, even what happened in Odi. And all those things that you see. Now, what is the issue? We keep forgetting that. It's the issue of the terms of agreement of reference of our unity. In 1960, when we got independence, it was very clear. The founders and the writers of our constitution wanted a Nigeria that was a federating unit, where everybody generated their resources and they managed their resources effectively. Awolowo was premier of the Western region. We had premier of the Eastern region. As a matter of fact, they were able to compete against each other. So we had Cocoa House in Ibadan, we had NTA Television, we had what have you. Now, by the time the military came and broke that and turned us into a unitary system, where we all became beggars to go to Abuja and collect money because they had to sustain the unitary system, everybody now feel cheated. See, at my own pace, I was able to generate money and spend it on my own people. I was able to generate money from Cocoa and build the Cocoa House, and build the stadiums, and build a TV station, first across Africa. But now I don't even have money to feed myself because every money goes straight to Abuja before it comes to me. So that is the reason for the agitation. And until we go back to the table and begin to look at the terms of our unity, even though we believe that our unity is not negotiable, the terms of our unity becomes negotiable. Because then, until we do that, even if another person, a Igbo person, becomes president of Nigeria, another group will come up and say, I feel marginalized.
Okay, all right. Mr. Yere, do you agree that as Nigeria stands, the terms of the unity of the country should be discussed?
Of course, definitely I do. Actually, the 1999 Constitution is a product of a coup d'etat. It is a product of a coup d'etat that had happened in January 1966 that brought us to where we are now. It broke down the system we had. There was an interview in Sahara Reporting recently of Professor Sage, where he was asked this question. He said, definitely, and I subscribe to everything he said in that interview, that we should go back to 1963 Constitution, with a little bit of amendment. Then, those who produce resources kept 50% of what they produce. They paid 30%, which was distributed among all the federative units. There were 2 federative units, not 3 they have in this constitution. The state and the region, that is state Nigeria, and the regions.
And federal.
Which,
the state is the federal.
Now. The state is Nigeria. Okay, now we have local government. And some people, with their own interest, decided to create local government in every street in their part of the country, just to get a piece of the
more piece of the cake.
More piece of the cake. But the 1963 Constitution provided for that. For instance, out of the 30% money that was paid for sharing among the federated unit, 41% went to the north, 30% went to the east. Only 18% went to the west because they were more endowed than the rest of the region. Then Midwest, that was the little one at that time, got only 6%. It was equally endowed compared to the east or the north.
Should that be the fault of? I'm going to come to that. Sakumapai, you do subscribe that the terms of Nigeria's unity should be looked into, but as it stands, it seems the people voted into power are not ready to discuss the terms of Nigeria's unity. Are they?
Well, to be really honest, I think is a game of dilly-dally. They are just swinging us around. A government will come with a principle and policy. It will just whitewash over it, and at the end of the day, we will not hear anything about it again. We had 2014 National Conference. It was for a purpose. But somehow, everything just went quiet. We never heard anything about it. But the agitation has come up again. In fact, more elaborated than ever. And we begin to ask ourselves, is it the Nigeria we've been living before? Or is it the Nigeria we are to live, for a very long time again? Because with this agitation, we can't go anywhere. I think we have to talk. We have to come to the round table. We are not enemies, but we are just opposition. We are just discussing different views. We've been together for the past 57 years. That one is, is very, very commendable. And we have been patching along. So we can move further. So at this point in time, I think, let us talk. And we just appropriate whatever we need to appropriate and get everything in perspective, and we move on as a nation.
Dayo, my question to you is, the way it is now, politicians don't seem to be ready to discuss the terms of Nigeria's unity. They had constitutional review, and the issue of restructuring was deliberately removed until Nigerians began to talk. They said, okay, don't worry, we'll review this again. Well, we don't know when, how, where. What are your views? Do you think politicians are really elected people, are really serious, or they are benefiting from the status quo?
I think the dynamics, sometimes I'm in the center because recently I also went into politics to run for office, to be able to give back. So sometimes I look at which dimension to speak from. But I'm going to speak first as a Nigerian. The dynamics of our politics is so unique that the challenges that comes with it, and you have to think about the implication of every action that you take. So APC has a budget of expectation. People have said over and over again, Nigeria needs a rolling. Somebody who can come in and really change things as drastically. Unfortunately, peradventure, because of the health of the president and also the various bureaucracies of politics and governance in a democracy, we did not see that as much as he himself even would have loved to. He said at one time that it was being slowed down by the rudiment of bureaucracies. But the reality is that these politicians, if you look at the system of government, it will not be in their favor. So look at it, for example, you go back to the old ways of the Western region, Eastern region, there are going to be literally less governors, less local government chairman, and less public officials, less money to loot, and less resources. So this is beyond just the parties. It's also about the people themselves and the people who have made politics business in our country, Nigeria. It's a career. Many of the politicians do not have a second address. And until we begin to look at, I keep saying, the fundamentals of our structure and our system, and that that cannot come from people who are not passionate about country. Most politicians who go into government and in place of authority are there as a job, as a career to just do it, not because they are patriotic nationalists.
But Dayo, but is there a crime? If you take a look at the British system, almost 50-60% of the members of parliament, it's their career. They've been there for, but they're still very patriotic to the system.
Values. The values is missing largely in our country. The values is because here you can easily, you can quit today and get into something else. As a matter of fact, you see prime ministers resigning, you see MPs resigning. That would not happen in Nigeria because we're concerned about livelihood. People are concerned about a career, job, taking care of the children. The basic amenities of government is not there. So the only place that they can get is when they're in governance. I'll give you an example. After I ran for election and we didn't get it, immediately the next day, I was back on the road doing different things. I was in Uganda at a program. I went to Rwanda. I'm back in London, here and there. Many people actually said to me, you know what, why don't you go and beg, even if they give you something small, just manage, even if it's councillor. And I'm like, no, it's not a do or die affair. We want to serve. If a platform for service appears, if it's worth our time and commitment, that's fine. But many politicians only think about politics and service. So when you bring an issue that affects their personal income, affects their livelihood and survival, they're not going to put it into consideration. And that's what we must think about. And then it becomes responsibility of the citizens to ensure that whoever we are sending into our parliament, either the House of Assembly or the House of Reps or the Senate, that there are people who are passionate about the Nigerian project.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Yes. We have so many people in parliament who don't understand the Nigerian project. I have people in House of Assembly, National Assembly, who has not raised a single motion. They've not even raised a single bill. They're just there taking a salary and go back to their constituency and share generator, share Okada, and say they are that's not the work of the legislature. We've missed it.
Mr. Ohiro.
Yes, sir.
I mean, earlier on you were saying in the 1963 provision and structure of the country, the North seems to get more because they had less resources, and the Middle Belt, the Middle Belt area.
There was no Middle Belt then.
Well, I was trying to talk about, Midwest at that time got far lesser because
6%.
Because they had resources. Should that be the case? Should resources, even as it is at the moment, do you think things have actually changed? The North still get more because they've got more local government, and the Southwest in fact, the totality of the Southwest, Southwest, they get far less compared to Northeast, Northwest, North Central. What has changed? What will change? What can change in terms of the distribution of the resources?
What we can change is we should consciously force them to be self-reliant. For instance, Sir Ahmadu Bello built Kaduna textile mill. During British rule, oil milling was not allowed in Nigeria. But you have Nigeria oil mill in Kano. I've been there. I've visited it. So, if those who don't help themselves, they allow their people to loot their commonwealth, and they put pressure, they will kill to get a seat in the government. They even voted against. I find that very worrying. Why will a Labour Party supporter want to be a minister in a conservative government? Why would a Democrat want to be a minister in Donald Trump government? Why those who voted against APC, 95% want to kill or bring down Nigeria because they want more seats, like they had in the previous government? They've always supported. I find that very troubling. The only reason is that we have resources monopolized by the center at the expense of the constituent state or unit. So we should change that and go back to 1963 Constitution with amendment. Let people who want to come, who want to stay by themselves, stay by themselves. Those who want to come together, let them come together. We don't need 36 states or plus another 18 proposed by the last conference.
Actually, the last conference, Mr. Kumakpa did say the issue of Nigeria returning to the 1963 former regional should be forgotten. Rather, the state format should be maintained and retained as it were. Will that help? Would the issue of restructuring Nigeria ever happen?
Well, restructuring of Nigeria, I mean, I just consider it as the word restructuring, as a diversified, just so many meaning, put in order, perfect it, this and that. But in the abstract sense, there's no reason why we should not talk. Talk is what I know as being the structure. If we have the opportunity to be on the table today, this is the area I'm not really agreeing with. Let's look at the other hand. We come around together and say, okay, we can compromise this one. If you are ready to leave that one for us, that is how, nations should talk. It's not a matter of say, oh, this is our order, you must take it, this is the whatever. No, friends don't fight. Friends come over to discuss issue. If they cannot discuss issue, that is what leads to break up. So, and we don't want to break up. We are a nation of kindred idea. We've been passionately moving together ever since 1960. Before 1960, we don't even know each other. But since 1960, Hausa have married Igbo, Igbo have married Hausa, Yoruba have married Igbo, and we've been patching together. So at this point in time, I don't see any reason we should say, oh, we go our different ways. Restructuring will not bring fight. It will only bring a lasting solution to our problems.
All right, I've got Ralph. Let me take Ralph. Good morning, Ralph. Where are you calling from? Okay, thank you so much. Go ahead and make your point, Ralph.
Yeah. My contribution is, I think we talk too much. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go on.
We talk too much.
If we don't talk, how do we get things moving, Ralph? If we don't talk.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We keep on talking without having headway at all. But for me, to save all the issues, for me, I think we need to get it right, come with a plan that will support restructuring.
So what's the plan?
Yeah. So we don't need to be talking. You can see the APC government. They said they have set up the committee. But for me, I don't know anything about what should I say about government. But for me, I think it should not be that APC we give us the committee. It should be the government that we set up the committee for us. But for me, the way I see it is like as business as usual. But for me, we talk too much. We don't need to talk. Just get it right, do it for once, and do it for once and for all.
How do we move, Ralph? How do we move it forward if we don't talk? What's the plan?
Yeah. Well, for me, I think the way we should move forward is to go back to the way we were doing it before. We're talking about the what should I say, parliamentary system of government. If they know that they can't do it that way, they can still do the what they call the one that they are doing in America, which is federalism. I think maybe majority of people they support federalism. So if we want to do it, we should do it in a proper way, and we should allow the state or where the resources is to control their resources. We should not be afraid of anything. That is why since then, I don't know whether you have been to Nigeria. Go to Nigeria, you can see the airport. Nothing's working. No light, no water, nothing. And all those people, they are paying their bills every month. Could you imagine for paying for service that they did not render to you? So for me, my conclusion is they should allow the true federalism.
All right, Ralph, thank you so much, Ralph. Mr. Kumakpa, true federalism. But we are practicing federalism at the moment. What is wrong with the federalism we are practicing?
What is wrong with the federalism is what I will just narrow down to what is called window dressing. Window dressing means, you take power from the right and you are ruling from the left. The federal system we are practicing is a bit of unitary system. So if you want to copy federalism, let it be true. We go to America and see how things are done in America. Right now in America, President Trump said he wants to, he wants to, control the legislation, surrounding them, the immigrants. And state of California turn around and say, we are sanctuary state, meaning that anybody should not be asked about their immigration status. That is what I know as true federalism. Everybody should be allowed to do what, is good for its people.
But there's a danger for that in Nigeria. While we support true federalism, it's also important that we set up a very strong system of check and balances. Because Nigeria, like I said, because of the
if true federalism works
the
in
values
America,
and the
why can it
lacuna,
not work
the
in
value
Nigeria?
and lacuna that exists in Nigeria
What
is
is
wider. So let me give you an example. Go to Nigeria. You see an ordinary governor, just ordinary, state security agency, all those small ones. They use that in violating the rights of their citizens. Talk less of when they have total control over the police force. Just ordinary. I support federalism.
No.
I'm just saying that there has to be a system that checks and balance, because in Nigeria, power corrupts very easily.
So it is not the system, it is not the structure, it's the people.
It's the people. There needs to be that value orientation, and people need to understand the rule of law. If some of our governors get power in Nigeria, just ordinary power. Let me give you an example. What happened in local government election in Benue State. Benue election, because local government election are run by the state government, they have control over it. In Benue State, they had the election. The governor, the press secretary, I think to the governor, somebody just came out, announced that the party in the state had won all the local government seats in the state, did not even answer any single question, did not even give the figures of who won and who lost and what they voted, nothing. The same thing happened in another state, I think it was Ogun or something. They just came and announced that the party in the state had won. Same thing happened across many states in Nigeria. That people are now calling and saying the federal government INEC should begin to undo local government election in the state. Now, that's ordinary just election. Imagine if some of these other powers that you're talking about have exclusive to state government. So while we must look at a federating system, that the governments have power at the state level, there must be a super system at the federal level that can control and check.
Even in the true federal system, that is where the judiciary is. If there's an abuse of power, the judiciary
How effective is that judiciary in Nigeria?
Okay, let's go to Ade. I'm going to come. Let me take Ade. Good morning, Ade. You are welcome from Birmingham.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning to your guests. You guys have all spoke well. But I want to let one of your guests that said previous president managed this crisis, but no, they didn't. Let's start with Yaradua. Let us start with Yaradua. Yaradua didn't manage Boko Haram well, because if Mohammed Yusuf was not killed, I believe that guy, the government would have used him.
But Ade, you said Yaradua did not manage the issue of Boko Haram well.
Yes, because
did Nigeria have any Boko Haram crisis during Yaradua regime?
They started. That's Mohammed Yusuf. That's how he was killed.
No, was it that violent as we had under Jonathan?
And that's where Shekau then came, because Shekau was deputy. But what I'm saying, if Yaradua managed it well, that Mohammed Yusuf was not killed, we wouldn't have been where we are today.
Okay. Ade, let me ask you one question. Yeah. So Yaradua did not manage Boko Haram very well.
Yeah, and that's
because the way his government dealt with the leader of Boko Haram at that time.
Yes, sir.
But can we say that President Muhammadu Buhari is handling the issue of hip hop very well because of the way he's dealing with Kanu now?
Okay, let me come with this thing.
No, just go straight. Is Buhari handling hip hop right because of the way he's dealing with Kanu, or the way he has dealt with Kanu in recent time?
Okay, let me tell you. Even Jonathan, Obasanjo managed the OPC well. There's time that Obasanjo did orders, sit aside. He didn't manage OPC well. Did Obasanjo manage Niger Delta crisis then? Asari Dokubo was arrested. They told him, okay, you are going to Abuja for peace. He came to Abuja and they took him to underground cell. It was with then Yar'Adua that released him, then he ran in the Republic. Same with Jonathan. Did he manage the crisis that he inherited from Yar'Adua? Did he manage it well? No. The only thing Yar'Adua managed well was the Niger Delta crisis, and Jonathan continued. Now coming to IPOB, let's be honest. This IPOB of the team, is it genuine? We know this IPOB 2 years ago.
Yes, and the IPOB, let us assume in quote, IPOB is not genuine. I'm not saying that. You say it's not. You say is it genuine?
Yes,
but Boko Haram under Yar'Adua, was it genuine? You have not answered my question. You said Yar'Adua did not manage Boko Haram well because of the way he dealt with the leader at the time. I'm asking you, is President Muhammadu Buhari dealing with IPOB well now because of the way he has handled Kanu in recent time? Is he?
So how do you want the president, someone that started having his own military, someone that is having fun, someone that telling people to sit, someone that said there's not going to be an election, someone that went and kissed a sitting governor from a church, someone that said a man of God, pastor, should not come to the southeast. That is Kumuyi. These are the things.
So, straight answer. In your view, President Muhammad Buhari, the way he's handling Kanu and IPOB is absolutely right.
Yes, 101%. Right.
But the way Yar'Adua handled Boko Haram because of the way he dealt with the leader at the time was wrong.
Yes, I still stand with my point that if Mohammed Yusuf was not killed, we wouldn't have this crisis.
Okay, all right. Ade, let me come to my guests in the studio. Thanks a lot. Can we start from where Ade stopped?
Yeah.
Comparing Yar'Adua's regime and the way he managed the socio-political agitation at the time with President Muhammadu Buhari, with the way he's handling the socio-political agitation now. Yeah. I asked him a couple of questions. Yeah. Would you want to shed a bit of some light?
Yes, I would like to remind my friend, my colleague Ade, that troublemakers don't write letters to anyone. They are going to start trouble. And a habit of appeasing troublemakers in Nigeria cannot be the way forward. To correct the last caller, Jonathan was acting president when the military arrested the leader of Boko Haram, and they handed him over to the police, and the police murdered him extrajudicially. Not Yar'Adua. Yar'Adua was not in the country. He was very sick, and he came and died. So Obasanjo dealt ruthlessly with OD and managed OPC well. I don't think Jonathan managed Boko Haram well. He ignored them. He even said that himself when he went to Angola, that he was treating them with kid gloves. So Jonathan did a lot of havoc. I'm sorry, pardon me to use to say that, to Nigeria by running down our economy, misusing our oil windfall.
But under him, we had the largest economy in Africa.
Because the money was flowing in. We had inherited $65 million.
Is President Muhammadu, the way President Muhammadu Buhari had handled IPOB in recent time?
The economy,
IPOB, the way the Kanu crisis.
Yes.
Did they handle it well?
Initially, I didn't see why military should be used against IPOB. I think now I see
it was a siege now. You think it was necessary?
The way it has suppressed their unnecessary aggression and not unnecessary agitation, because we don't need it.
Okay, all right.
I think we need to go back still to the basic. Let's look at the trend. For every administration you get into power in Nigeria, a cluster group is going to rise up and say we feel marginalized
So
and we're agitating.
Bread.
So, if, for example, if it's the South that is in power, the North will arise. If it's the North that is in power, the South will arise. The background of all this is still the terms of reference of our union. So if, for example, we have the various federating units who are doing their own, it is hard for IPOB, for example, to rise up to the premier of the Western region where everything they are spending is coming from them and spent by them.
But Nigeria is not likely to ever go back to that system of government.
So we can still look at that in the state. So you have the Western region. You still have your state. So there's still the state governors across all the states. So like a doctor was saying, we can look at the 1963 Constitution as amended to look at today's realities. We can design our own federal system of government to have the premier and also state governors. For example, we have the prime minister in Scotland, we have the speaker of, and then we have mayors in various cities. So we can look at that and say, okay, you still maintain the governors and the local government, but then at the central of us, we have a Western region, Eastern, and whatever it is, prime minister, and then followed by a presidency, maybe a ceremonial president or whatever it is that we look at. But until we deal with that, for every president that comes into power, they will say, go and get him busy.
Can I one question? He said, for every agitator or any group coming up, they cannot be treated
with his glove.
Yeah.
They cannot be taught.
Yeah,
is it right that when people are agitated, it is not?
No.
It is. Would they catch? They shouldn't be talked to.
So
that
was one of the challenges that President Jonathan also had. One of the things that the leaders, with knowledge of hindsight, they miss out is that whenever an agitation rises, they look at the agitation from the dimension of they're against me or against my people or it's my plot. Jonathan did not handle Boko Haram well because he thought it was a northern agenda to bring down his government. He didn't even believe that the Chibok girls were kidnapped. He thought, see, this guy, let them go and find their children. So the same way, if we look at it, we might make that mistake in this current government if we're not careful. But that's why the government is now standing up to say, you know what, we're not going to let this, just pass us by. But we need to do more. I know the president has a good heart, but we need to do more than just suppressing them to have that conversation. And that's what we're now doing with this restructuring committee of the APC. To say, okay, what is the terms of restructuring that we want to? What do we as a party want to push in the next few months before the end of our the first term? What is our own vision that we sold to Nigeria that we're going to? And we have open town hall meetings across the geopolitical zones of Nigeria. Come and bring in your motions. This is how we want to see. For example, I have been mobilizing young people to say, you know what, we need to get involved in this process. We need to actually play a role, 2 roles that I believe are important for the young people because we are the ones that are going to live for that next generation. We have to be part of those who write the history of our nation, not the past history, but the new history that we are creating. So we must get involved in governance because if we had effective people in the National Assembly and in the State House of Assembly, they would even have been able to discuss the terms of this engagement because that's what Muhammadu Buhari said. He said the people who are responsible when he came back, his speech after he returned to Nigeria was that the place for this to be discussed, one of which is the National Assembly. But these guys are not even ready to discuss it because everybody has their own values and interests. So we need to get people into parliament who have a passion for the country, who are going to be able to stand to write a new history for our nation, who have the courage to be able to stand for what is right. Then we also need to also give our support to the executive in their effort to implement. Things are changing in Nigeria. I'll give you an example. I got into the airport. Before you land in the airport, you have to do all this cleaning. Somebody will check your bag. You then go to customs. You do this. Today is very easy. They've cut down the system. The ease of doing business is working. So the government is doing their bit in bits and pieces. But this thing has been happening for 57 years. It's not going to go away in a day. But we must make a courageous effort to get it right from the fundamental background.
Mr. Kumapai, can I take your reaction? Oh, I've got Tafida on the line. I'm sorry. Let me take Tafida. Tafida, thank you for waiting. Good morning, Tafida.
Good morning today and good morning, panelists. I want to make my own contribution based on the topic being discussed at the moment.
Can I ask you to speak up a little bit, Tafida?
Okay, I want to make my contribution based on what is happening at the moment, based on the topic being discussed. If you remember, in Borno, when Ihijirika was the chief of army staff. He slaughtered people, slaughtered innocent people. What I mean by innocent, they go house to house to pack youth, even university students, to slaughter them on the street, burn people's house. And under Jonathan,
which state was that
I'm
happening?
going to say because they have rumor. And then Yaradua, you cannot remove Jonathan from Yaradua. You can't touch it. Both of them mismanaged the situation. And when the killing was going on, Jonathan said, "Is the not let them be killing themselves." That was what he said. Secondly, after all this failure, Buhari came in. And you know what? The first people he started with, apart from the Boko Haram, he ordered bombing of them. And they are his fellow Muslims. When these people blocked the road, once the army slaughtered them, IPOP blocked bridge, blocked everywhere, and we did not see that kind of massacre. I think the most traveled people, that is, people that travel a lot in Nigeria are Igbos. And when they go, they meet some harsh laws somewhere, but they still can integrate and stay. But you know what? As Ohanize president is coming tomorrow, on Wednesday, to Chatham House, I will be there to question him. The failure of Igbo emanated from Igbo. The failure emanated from them. And let me tell you, even if you restructure, they will have emperors that money will still not reach them. You understand? People are thinking, oh, if we restore, let me tell you, my definition of restructuring is resource control, nothing more resource control, and nothing more oil, and hatred again for fellow citizens. But you know what? If you can go to other, like Lagos now, they have everybody. Because of their ability to welcome people, that is why Lagos is thriving. But for Igbo, they want to put the money in their pocket, taking wrong political decisions and blaming people for their failures. That is what is happening. And restructuring all kind of manner of definitions, and if we are on our own, we would make Southeast like a Dubai. I'll stop you from making it Dubai now. Did anybody stop anybody from making it Dubai? IPOP is a terrorist organization and should be labeled so. Kanu has done a lot of things that nobody would have done to go free. I think Operation Python should swallow Kanu. They should look for him, not those boys. Those boys are victims of corruption.
Okay.
I don't blame those boys at all. In fact, I am with them.
All right,
I
Tafida.
am with them. I will stand with those boys because
all right, Tafida,
it's the Nigerian system that causes it.
Thanks a lot. Sakuma Akpai, I mean, I've had two callers now. Ade from Birmingham said the way Yaradua handled Boko Haram because of the killing of the leader at the time was not very well done. Now, but he was of the opinion that targeting Kanu and IPOP was absolutely correct. And I've got Tafidana that said Operation Python that should have swallowed up Kanu. Are Nigerians, do we have a coordinated view about agitation and moving Nigeria forward?
Thank you, Mr. Coordinator. I think the issue of IPOP, being a terrorist organization or whatever they call it, is it's a two-way because after all, it's a political ideology and they have reason for doing what they are doing. But the president or those people in power, they approach the issue wrongly. There's no reason why military should be allowed in civilian, settlement. It's against the international code. It's against the international code for military suppression within the, a civilian location. be as it was, well, they went there. But I would have rather advised the president to use the rule of law to get Kanu back to court so that he can know the gravity of what he's doing on the outside. Because when a bail is to be set for anybody on a charge, they will say, is there going to be anything of public interest, incitement, or anything of tampering with evidence? All these things we have to be taken to account.
National security. National
security, thank you. All these things we have to be taken into account before a bail is set. So when you got the bail and you violate the terms of the bail, the court has the power to recall you back. It is the court order supposed to have been issued or warrant, bench warrant.
So why did the government not issue a bench warrant to arrest or recall Kanu?
Yeah, that is why I said they got you wrong.
No, the government went to court, just that the court hasn't given the judgment.
So why would the court?
It's a legal system. So you're also talking about the rule of law.
So if the government went to court,
yes,
as we know, the court has not given its order.
Yes, because there are processes.
There are processes. Yes. Shouldn't the government wait? Should not the government have waited for the court to give its order to say, you know what, Kanu, you violated your terms of bail. We get you back to court. We go with the prosecution. Should the government not have waited?
There are two things. The government is not arresting him on the ground of you've violated, that's for the court. I think the government is only responding to the issues of national security. The issues that would lead to civil disobedience in the community. That's a different thing. So while the government waits for the court to arrest him back, they still have a responsibility to ensure the protection of lives and properties in the community.
And the use of the military was a right?
I would not comment on that.
You should be able to comment.
No, I refuse to comment on that.
Dayo, no, you should be able to comment. You've played political, you've been a politician, you've been a national spokesperson at some point. Is the use of the military, and you've lived in this country, you are enlightened, is the use of military in a civilian environment appropriate?
I'm still forming my thoughts about that, weighing all the various options. But what I believe very strongly is we must put Nigeria first. And I believe also that the government must do its best to balance between rights and responsibilities, protecting citizens and also fundamental human rights of the citizens. But you know, when the conflict of an individual citizen conflicts with the national interest of the country, I think at the time, the executive has the power to actually override that and put the interest of the country
so at that time, the use of the military was
I never said that. I will not comment on that.
Can I comment?
Because I need to go on a break right now.
Okay, quickly. Not only that the government has the right to come in. Okay, look at when the leader of Boko Haram was arrested by the military. It was the police that killed him. Extrajudicial killing. So we are a young democracy with untrained police, with very, very, with the military that do what they like. They seize power, remember? So they are used to doing what they like. I feel sorry for those kids who were misled to think there is an Eldorado, Utopia in Biafra, when Igbos will be worse off in Biafra.
I even have an issue with the Igbos. Okay. We've had an ex-GF that was Igbo in the last administration. The Minister of Finance was Igbo. The Minister of Petroleum was Igbo.
Even today, the governor of Central Bank.
I need to go on a break.
This is even lower.
Okay,
when you look and consider. Okay. I will talk about that after the break.
I need to go on a short break now. Okay, guys, I need to go on a short break now. When we come back, we still have like few minutes to take a couple of calls. Don't go away.
As part of our continued efforts to reach the African and other ethnic communities in the United Kingdom with greater impacts and create the platform to hear your silent and unheard views in this hugely growing community in the United Kingdom, our channel, Ben TV, presents to you another live current affairs television program. Our focus on the program is to review and discuss issues around the diaspora community in the UK. The program offers you that unrestricted voice on issues affecting you in the UK. Join us live every Monday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon